Yes, sir. It's your boy, Jew.
Hey, we on that Duke Nation, man. We here. We told y'all.
Yes, sir. JMU Nation, stand up. But we told y'all we're going to get y'all one. Yes, sir. We got y'all one. Stand up.
There's a reason Christopher William Jewelers has been voted Best of Virginia year after year. It's not just one thing that sets us apart. It's everything. It's the selection, extensive and unmatched, with every engagement ring, loose diamond, and fashion jewelry chosen for quality and brilliance. It's the service. From our diamond experts to our master goldsmith, our team shares a passion for what they do, and it shows. It's the atmosphere, both glamorous and laid back. See for yourself why people can't stop talking about Christopher William Jewelers in Harrisonburg and Weir's Cave.
Emergency pod. The Dukes are dancing.
Hell yeah. For the first time since 2013, I've blown out my voice rooting for these Dukes, but it's been worth it every single minute. You know what else is worth it, Bennett?
What?
Betting with Bet Online. It continues to be your number one source for all of your basketball wagering needs, including this March when you can bet on the Dukes to win the national championship. Pro, college hoops, everything throughout the year. Up to the minute odds, stats, and trends. You can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform at any time from your desktop or mobile devices. Head to Bet Online today to become part of the team and to remember to use promo code BELIEVE. That's promo code BLEAV to get over 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts and where this emergency podcast starts, baby. They're dancing.
They're absolutely dancing. There are two stories that I feel like have captivated the nation today. First one, obviously, Kate Middleton, right? What's up with her? Photoshop. There's a lot of questions swirling there. Topic number two, Xavier Brown.
Yes. Yep. I was thinking, yep. Exactly.
We're going to focus on number two tonight. Maybe later in the week, we'll do an emergency pop for number one. We get a little more info. But man, JMU's eighth leading scorer coming into the game went off for 21 in the first half on shots that I think in any other game you would consider ill-advised.
I think you could say ill-advised in this game, but when you're red hot like that, it doesn't matter because he was banking them home. He was one-legged fadeaway runners from well past the three-point line and just draining them. And I think there was like a few shots of his dad, like right behind the JMU bench. Remember from the App State game, his dad's doing laps around the AUBC every time he hits a shot. You got to know he's talking about that elbow, bring that elbow in like he was coaching him up at the App State game. What an electric performance from Xavier Brown. Did he finish with 21?
He did. I don't think he scored in the second half.
He didn't. What a game. 20 minutes, 21 points, and then in the second half was just an excellent facilitator.
Yeah, 20-point win over an Arkansas State team that was playing really, really well. 91-71. They took advantage of Arkansas State's suspect defense. Just an all-around unbelievable performance. But I think Brown especially, it's fun to watch him sort of have a heat check moment because he would get the call or he kept just calling five, right?
I don't know what 5 is, but 5 looked like a high screen roll to Xavier and just shoot.
But he kept calling it. He was telling everyone. He was pointing to somebody like in the Arkansas State sections. I don't know if somebody said something to him pregame, but like early on, he's making threes. He's pointing to people in the crowd. He's got his hand up. I mean, it was fun to watch him sort of realize that he was entertaining everyone in the building.
Yeah. Drop your real-time thoughts as this live stream's going on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Use the comment section, whatever it is, to let us know your thoughts from this game. What were your thoughts throughout? But Xavier Brown, he hits that very first three, and it must have been the person you saw him drawing with too. He turns to whoever is over on the Arkansas bench. He's guarding the guy bringing the ball up and is just talking, looking to his left, talking mad shit, just fucking. And it's just like, this man's guarding and talking.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was sort of a perfect game for him and probably the best game, obviously, that he's played all season and early in his career. And I thought the whole first half, it was Brown, and then they would post up freshman Jalen Carey inside, who was kind of getting whatever he wanted. To have those two guys lead you offensively in the first half, I thought was surprising and equally impressive.
Yeah. Carey and Xavier Brown combined for 32 points in the first half. I believe the Dukes only had 42 points in the first half. So they combined for a vast majority of those points. The freshman, the sophomore combo, doing whatever they wanted, which was kind of really important because Terrence Edwards and TJ Bickerstaff weren't necessarily on their A game in that first 20 minutes. In the second 20 minutes, both of them played extremely well. That first 20 minutes dominated by Carey and Xavier Brown.
Yeah, Edwards maybe the quietest 19 of like all time, which I feel like he's done a lot this year where you look at this statue at the end of the game, you're like, oh, wow. He gets his way into the lane and has sort of those crafty moves. He was good. Yeah, Bickerstaff was great late. Just an all-around performance. Friedel was really solid. They were 11 of 19 as a team from three. Wooden, I think, had 5 points but only took 3 shots or something hilarious, which is like very on brand for him at times. It was just a perfect performance.
It was maybe the most efficient basketball game I've ever watched.
1.47 points per possession, 1.468.
An insane number.
Yeah. 62 possessions, 40 scores.
That's crazy. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Like that like I think at one point I saw like that NCAA buzzer beater and game winner account tweet like this is one of the most effective games ever. I think JMU had 61% shooting at that point deep in the second half. That doesn't happen.
Unbelievable. A bit of a palate cleanser after the early game, which was just a slog between Marshall and JMU on the women's side. So, I mean, what an unbelievable day of basketball. I think if you're a JMU fan, the first game was highly entertaining. Obviously, the second one with the men winning was probably a little more enjoyable at times, but unbelievable. I thought it was going to be a lot tougher against Arkansas State. I like the way Arkansas State played, but then also Texas State, which I don't think is that good, took the Dukes sort of to the brink last night. So I thought this might have been a bit tougher for him.
I think if JMU faces off with a very good offense like Arkansas State is, with a kind of suspect defense, it makes for a very advantageous matchup situation for the Dukes because they have the best defense, second best defense right there with App State. And their offense is so good for JMU that if you don't play good defense against them, they're going to get theirs. And it kind of felt like that in that first half, right? Arkansas State was kind of sticking around, but JMU would pull out a little bit. Then Arkansas State would crash the glass, get a bunch of offensive boards, and just kind of keep it close. But it always felt like JMU was one run away from just cracking it open. And that's kind of what happened. It seemed like JMU would go on these like 8-0 little runs. Arkansas State would answer with a 3, and then JMU would go on another 8-0 run. And then by the time you look up again, they were up, I believe, 28 with like 3 minutes left.
Just an unbelievable showing in such a key game. Yeah, I mean, everybody's good, right? Michael Green had a great game too. He's 2 for 2 for 3. He loves non-conference games.
I got some stats here from Michael Green.
I can't wait.
Because technically, Sun Belt Conference tournament games are non-conference games.
Right.
So you do your conference games. Yeah, they don't count in the standings. You play your conference games. You play 18 of them, and then you go into the Sun Belt tournament, which is technically non-conference. This season, in 18 games of conference action, Michael Green went 8 for 49 from deep. That is a 16% clip. He had one game with multiple three-pointers made in the first 17 games of the season, of the conference season. He's now 10 of 18 over the last 4 with at least 2 three-pointers made in all of the games. He went 4 for 9 in the season finale against Coastal, hit 2 against Marshall, 2 against Texas State, 2 for 2 tonight. In non-conference, he is now shooting 46%. He's 37 of 79 in non-conference games.
It doesn't make any sense, but it's hilarious.
That might be the best stat of all time. The non-conference lights come on and Michael Green says, 1 second, let me go get a quick 9.
He does seem like he likes like the attention, right? He had the Akron game where he played really well that was non-conference, but then also like televised. He seems this one televised. Michigan State game, he was very good, right? Shot making. It seems like, when there's pressure, he's like, oh, I guess I should
step up. When it's Marshall on a Thursday night on ESPN Plus, he's like, nah, I'm fine.
He's like, nobody's watching this.
Maybe that's what happened with Xavier Brown too. Xavier said, guys, 1 second. I'm gonna take this game over.
But great to have a team that can rise to the occasion like that. So I think the obvious next step for JMU fans, right, is like, hey, they're going to the big dance, but are they winning games? What are your thoughts now after this blowout win? They get over a week off. They have a ton of time off now.
Yeah, I don't think this game changed my thought process. I came into it thinking that they were a real threat to win a game. I think they're a real threat to make it to the second weekend. I think they're going to be a trendy double-digit pick. I think they might be around that 10 to 12 seed. I'm leaning more on the 12 seed side just because they didn't get any good wins during the Sun Belt tournament. And I think that'll be it'll hurt their resume, honestly. So they'll be more of around a 12 seed. But you got to love that 5-12. At the 11 spot, I like the 6-11. I think they'll be a trendy pick. I think they have the capability to win a second game in the round of 32. And I think they can make their way to the Sweet 16.
Definitely kind of hilarious that the knock on them all year was the schedule, and the draw in the conference tournament was like as fluffy as you could get.
Yeah. I was sitting there last night watching the Arkansas State app game, and I was like, one, for the resume, I was like, please don't hit this buzzer beater, Arkansas State. Please go to OT. Because I was like, there's so many things that's positive about that, right? App State with them be coming off their second straight OT game. They're a little tired. 3 games in 3 days, 2 of which would be OT. Coming into JMU, I like the Dukes in the third matchup. Plus, if JMU can beat App State in the final, you then have ultimate bragging rights. It doesn't matter that you went 0-2 in the regular season, everything like that. Then Arkansas State hit the buzzer beater, and I convinced myself that was actually better for JMU. But now, after the Dukes dominated the Red Wolves, kind of hurt them. But I think they're a Sweet 16 team. Do you think they're this year's FAU?
They've got potential. Obviously, the draw matters a lot for all of that, but they have a lot of potential. I think the depth is a big deal. They have multiple scorers, as they sort of showed today. I think the defense is playing well. It's fascinating. I think, the seeding's interesting because I think 11 or 12 probably makes a lot of sense, but they also they're not going to get this, but they look like, they could have a single-digit seed, like the way they play, the way they played in big games.
Do you want that 8 or 9 seed though? I mean, or really the 9 seed, because then if you're the 9, you're playing the 8, then you're playing the 1.
Absolutely not. I think the 12 or
okay,
11,
yeah, I think
it's a better setup. I think the 11 is almost perfect. If you get an 11, because then you would play 6. If it's chalk, you'd play 6-3-2, where you could talk yourself into an Elite 8 or a Final.
Granted, I could talk myself into beating a 1 seed.
They're playing well, man. They're playing really well. It's crazy because they haven't had a team anything like this, right? They had they made the tournament in 2013, but they were a 16 play-in.
Yeah,
a lot different than you could make a Sweet 16 kind of team.
Yeah, I wasn't really a huge fan of JMU basketball at the time in 2013. My fandom started the 2015 year, the last year of Matt Brady. But it just feels so I never thought I would see this. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but where this program was so far away from where Mark Byington has brought it.
Yes. I mean, let me make sure I get my numbers correct. So Rose last season, they were 3-11 in Ken Pom. They were 9-21 that season. They're 31-3.
Yeah.
They have 31 wins.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. That's insane. And it's really hard, even with a soft schedule, to do it. And the way that they've done it has been so impressive. They've blown out a lot of teams, and to show up third game in 3 days against a red hot team that really had nothing to lose, right? If you're Arkansas State, you're trying to get in, but I don't think going into the tournament, you're necessarily expecting to do that.
Yeah.
And they stomped them. I mean, there's 10 minutes left in the game, and Arkansas State looked like they were done.
I mean, Arkansas State just started chucking up terrible threes and clanking them.
They just seem to like the big moment. I mean, there's guys hitting shots, right? Edwards is hitting he backs a guy down, hits a floater in the lane, and then does the too small. Brown's pointing to the Arkansas State section, which you have to be wired a little differently to hit a 3. You could turn toward your own section, which you're going back toward, and clap. Instead, he's no, he's talking trash to them. They just seem like they're wired a little different. It's unbelievable.
Crazy that the 8th leading scorer on the team is doing that. He's hit his first 3, and he's all right, time to talk some trash to the opposing teams. I average 5 points a game, but today I'm feeling 20.
You got to have some onions to take some of the shots he did, where it's like we have TJ Bickerstaff, an ACC transfer in the post. Terrence Edwards is the conference player of the year. Like Wooden's a great shooter. Friedel was third team. To be like, no, I'm pulling from the logo.
And even
crazy.
Jalen Carey, and like even when Jalen Carey was in, he was getting his shots. He kind of did that all season, where he just would bully people in the post. Like, yeah, it's insane that Xavier Brown was like, I'm going to pull up from 25 consistently.
Well, there's one play where they got Carey on a mismatch, but like the mismatch pushed him out really far. And I swear he posted the guy starting at the 3-point line.
The announcer said it. They were like, "Oh, that's too far." They're like, he started the ISO. Oh, but that pass is a little far out. I don't know about this. And then like 3 dribbles in, he's in the paint and just lays it in. They're like, "Oh, well, never mind."
Insane. I mean, just a clinical performance. A team that's clearly confident. I don't know exactly what they do in their practices, but like whatever they're working on.
Free throw golf.
The free throw golf. They created a ton of confidence. Yeah, that was gutsy. The Texas State win, maybe will get overshadowed now, but that was a really gutsy semifinal performance.
Against number 11 Texas State. We talked about how Arkansas, like this was a fluffy schedule. They got maybe the easiest straw they could have had. Number 10 Marshall into number 11 Texas State into number 4 Arkansas State. However, Arkansas State and Texas State are 2 of the hottest teams in the Sun Belt, not named JMU or App.
Yep.
So you got like 2 teams that their records, and maybe I sound like I'm making excuses for their resume now. You throw out the records. Every game is a 1-0 opportunity, whatever that is. But you got 2 teams that over the last month had only like lost, I think, a combined 5 or 6 games. And so they were coming in on a good roll. And you got Texas State's best shot, and you got Arkansas State's middle shot.
It was, I mean, like, they're red hot teams, right? They've been playing good basketball. And if you get to that point, you've earned your way there in the conference tournament. And they did. And JMU took care of business in both games. Then obviously the Marshall game wasn't even
close.
Like the Marshall game, the second half, I watched it and was like, oh man, kind of disappointing. They never led by less than 10 during that second half. And it still felt like, it was like, oh man, it could have been tough. Post-game press conference for Marshall, they're talking about how if they didn't give up a 22-4 run, the game could have been different. That's a big shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Like JMU is a pretty solid team.
That's like going into the post-game press conference and go, if we didn't lose, we would have won.
That's essentially, I think, what you got teams sort of grasping at straws, where it's like, God, if we just didn't get, blitz 20-0 in that stretch.
But
it's unreal.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a lot of Marshall. My stream was cutting out. I don't know if anyone else had problems with their ESPN Plus streams. For that Marshall game, I could not get connection, and then it wasn't on ESPN Plus's Hulu chat, whatever. That's besides the point. They did what they needed to do against Marshall, dominated Texas State, dominated Arkansas State. I need to know, going into the tournament now, who do they need another X factor performance out of Xavier Brown? Are they going to need another 32 combined point performance in the first half from Jalen Carey and Xavier Brown? Do you think Terrence Edwards is going to have a takeover game? What is it going to take for this team to win a few NCAA tournament games, or at least one?
I think the thing that's working in their favor is kind of the lack of recent history for JMU. Like if they lose the first round game, this was still a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
And
this is all icing on the cake.
Yes. Like I think they should know that. I think the fans should be aware of that, because I've seen some fans who are like, we got to make a Sweet 16 run. It's like, okay, well, it's hard, right? Like just winning the Sun Belt Championship. Exactly. Winning the Sun Belt Championship is a huge deal. Winning 30 plus games is a huge deal. Mark Byington returning the program to relevance is the biggest deal. Like they're going to go into next year, regardless of who's the coach and who's on the roster, with fans who want to attend the games, which was not the case a few years ago. That's a huge deal. So they've already accomplished a ton this year. This is one of the best teams in program history, right? The wins speak for themselves. Just great stuff all year long. So I think the fact that they're going to go in and I would assume play pretty freely gives them a good chance. I don't know if you necessarily need multiple guys. I think it tends to be when they get like quality 3-point shooting, they're really, really good because they can get to the rim with some guys. Bickerstaff and Carey can score down low. They're playing good defense. If they're hitting threes above 35%, they're extremely hard to beat.
I got a video for you. I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. They did it, man.
I'm just still shocked that they did it.
The way that they did it, the way that they did it all year. Also fun that we were stressing out. We're like, God, the resume. Like, I don't know if they're an at-large. I don't know where they stand on bubble watch. They're just like, we're going to beat the living crap out of Arkansas State and leave no doubt.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Should we bring back bubble watch for one last time? One last time for old time's sake?
8-spot jump in Ken Palm today. They had slid because they had some. They also were not going to get an at-large. Like, they needed to do this.
Yeah.
They did it because their resume was slipping pretty hard. Akron sort of has like fallen off randomly. Kent State has somehow gotten worse. A few other teams like Southern Illinois took a dive late.
Michigan State lost to Indiana in the regular season finale.
Yeah, Michigan State might suck. So I don't know. It's fascinating stuff, but they got in. They've got a week to sort of relax, enjoy it, rest. I think they're going to be extremely dangerous. And I agree with you. I think like they will be widely picked to win their first round game.
Odds are they're going to lose their first game, but there's a strong odd that they can win a game and potentially go on a little bit of a run. Are they going to be this year's FAU? Probably not. Are they going to be this year's Loyola Chicago? Maybe. We'll know how it all shakes out next Sunday. The selection show is on CBS at 6 p.m.
Yeah, about a full week, which is crazy. They play their conference tournament so early. So they got about a full week until selection Sunday and then a few more days after that before actually playing. So they should be well rested. Hopefully they can get that free throw golf in and stay competitive.
Yeah, fingers crossed they're getting the draw for a Thursday or Friday game or whenever it is in the Charlotte region. Get an early game there. That'd be beautiful.
I can't wait, man. We get to break down an NCAA tournament matchup next week. That's going to be a ton of fun. And I really think they're dangerous. I'm excited to see the matchup, but I think they've got a legit chance to win some games. I also think they view it like that. Like, I don't think Edwards is someone, or I don't think anyone on the team really are people who are like, we did it. Like, it's accomplished. You watch some of these games, like I saw Morehead State win their conference tournament. Like, you can kind of tell, like, the fans, like, yeah, like that's it, probably. Like, it's not a great team this year. They're like the 3 seed in the OVC or whatever it was. Probably not going far. So, like, there are certainly some mid-majors where, like, if you win your conference tournament, I think the same would have been true for Arkansas State.
Yeah,
like, if you win
this is our
like,
pinnacle. This is it.
You peaked. For JMU, it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to rule out that they could get a good draw and, like, make a Final Four. That's obviously high ceiling. But they're super talented. They've been talented all year. They're really, really good.
Yeah, if they play to their ceiling, this is going to sound kind of stupid, but like they hit their shots. They are a great 3-point shooting team. If they can avoid the kind of cataclysmic 10-minute drought that we saw against Texas State, we've seen kind of the last few games to finish out the season. If they can avoid those types of long, extended droughts and just play good basketball like they are capable of, this team has a real shot at winning some NCAA tournament games, making a lot of noise in the NCAA tournament, which is then going to be phenomenal moving forward with or without Mark Byington.
Yeah. I also think their predictive metrics, I don't want to say they're misleading. I think they're solid, but there have been a lot of games this year where they get up by like 30 and end up winning by like 18-20, kind of like tonight, where like at the end of the game, they're like, we did it. They kind of cruise, the walk-ons come in. And like, if you had kept pushing there, maybe your metrics even look a little bit better. I just think they're going to be a very, very tough out because App State, right? Great defensively, not good offensively, really. And you kind of saw that when they lost, they had some offensive, I guess, liabilities. The Dukes are pretty good on both ends.
What matchup are you hoping for? Not necessarily the team, the style of play. Is it like in Arkansas State, a great offense with a bad defensive team?
I like that. I love like if they get like Alabama in the second round or something, that's like the 3. Oh, like they can't guard, they can score a lot, but that seems like a fun kind of matchup. I think that would be a good one for them. I think they can kind of adjust and play just about anybody though, which makes me excited because they've won some grinders this year. They obviously didn't get at, but they've, like the Texas State game felt like more of a defensive, grinded out, find a way to win, and they did. And this one was sort of that more free flowing, which they thrive in. But I think any matchup they're gonna have a good chance.
Yeah, and the plus side for the Dukes, Justin Abson is out.
Yeah, they don't face Justin Abson anymore.
You don't have to face him. You do not have to see him again.
Oh, dumb hypothetical that we'll never know. Would they have beaten App State?
Because it's a dumb hypothetical, we'll never know the answer. Yes.
Yeah, I like to say yes too, and hopefully this like reaches App fans.
Yeah, let's cut this out of the podcast. Here, say something really inflammatory towards App State. Yusuf is dumb.
That's exactly right. I do appreciate, want to give a shout out to the guy who was in our comment section when I predicted JMU to win the conference tournament, called me a homer, said that defense wins championships. Not App State's defense, it turns out, but perhaps some level of defensive efficiency that the Dukes have was good enough. I enjoyed that, also looking up some numbers and finding out that like the last 8 national champions were all higher in offensive efficiency. Last year's Sun Belt champion led the conference in offensive efficiency. The 2 teams that played for the conference championship tonight were the top 2 in offensive efficiency during league play. So defense is irrelevant. I don't care what Dusty's trying to tell you in Boone. He's wrong.
I also love how it's like some sort of groundbreaking take that he goes to a website titled JMUsportsnews.com and it's an article about the conference tournament and you pick JMU and he's like, this is a homer take. Yet no shit.
Sorry that I write about JMU and they're the betting favorite and I wasn't going to pick against them. God. Also, App State had a way tougher draw to get to the final, which proved to be true.
Yeah, kind of that
2 overtime games.
Well, also they also just kind of like JMU did against Georgia Southern. They kind of stunk against Georgia Southern this season. App State went to OT twice against them, went 1-1 in those games.
Do you think Georgia Southern gets an at-large?
They went 2-0. They beat them both times, but essentially that first overtime
felt like a loss.
Yeah, it kind of did. I'll chalk it up as an L.
Do you think Georgia Southern gets an at-large?
Maybe, man. I think so.
I loved midway through the first half tonight where the announcers were talking about App State's NIT at-large case. That was driving me crazy. That was like 2 minutes, and they're like, they have a 72 net, which is good enough to get an NIT at-large. Like, I don't care. They're probably not watching this game.
They're probably crying.
Yeah. NIT at-large.
I wondered what they were talking about because I just overheard them go like, their at-large case is good enough. And I was like, are they talking about App State in the NCAA tournament? And
that's
right.
I thought.
Go like NIT. And I was like, I didn't know we talked about this openly.
Should we talk Arkansas State's CBI at-large?
Hey, don't disrespect the CBI. Don't disrespect that great trophy.
That's true. They could have, Arkansas State could go, Brian Hodgson could lead him to a title, and then he could go back to Alabama as an assistant. I've heard that's a very popular thing to do among CBI champions. Yeah, interesting. What did you think, big picture here, Sunbelt broadcast? We had them in person, the announcers, finally. What was up, though, with the studio stuff through the semis? I thought that was surprising.
I tweeted about it last night. It's a joke. Like, it's a downright shame that you do that. You're broadcasting. You could... I know we talk about how like JMU sees themselves as like a top tier mid-major school, which I think they are, hashtag the standard is the standard, whatever that may be. But like the Sun Belt also feeds into that amongst its players, amongst its schools, especially on the football side. But you have to back it up on the basketball side for men's and women's because you can get so much money with basketball.
Yeah.
And then I think Shane Metlin from the DNR wrote a really good article kind of outlining how now coaches are upset about it too, because they brought up how this is impacting recruiting. And I never thought of it from that angle. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at what like the SoCon does in the Sun Belt and you're a fringe guy, you'd be like a 6th or 7th man on a Sun, like you might pick the SoCon because they're easily more accessible. They have better broadcasts overall. They kind of get better reach because it's a shame. The most exciting game was Texas State ODU. The announcers weren't in the arena, so they didn't know that the buzzer beater, 1, was a buzzer beater when it left his hands, and 2, that it was off by 0.2 of a second. So, like, that's bad. I think there was a mistake in the Texas State JMU game pretty early on that was just like, if you were in the arena, you would have known that this wasn't a thing. And I'm not bashing the announcers. I'm bashing the Sun Belt itself. The production, for all things considered, was good. The announcers, all things considered, I think were good. Some people thought they were a little homery one way or another. I've called conference championships like this before. Low key, you kind of pick your favorite team going into it if you don't have like an allegiance, and you especially do it like to the SIDs who are the nicest to you and give you the most notes and help you a lot, because it's like a college kid cramming going into each game. So you might lean a little bit way like subconsciously. But with all that being said, all that was fine. It's the Sun Belt putting, wow, my voice is completely gone.
It's fighting though. It's fighting.
The Sun Belt put him in a spot to fail. There was no way to succeed in that spot.
It was tough. I think they got to get the announcers in the arena. And then there was some stuff like on the scoreboard. Obviously, the ODU Texas State time being like 6 seconds off was objectively hilarious because the announcers are like, that was a bold choice to shoot a half-court heave with 7 seconds left. And then it gets reversed, right? Because there wasn't any time on the clock. I don't know how you're 7 seconds off. One of the games, I can't remember if it was women's today. I think it might have been women today. The possession arrow was wrong like every time. So there'd be like a tie up and it'd be like, nice, that's big. And it's going Marshall's way. And I was like, oh, that stinks. But hopefully they don't switch the arrow on the graphic because like it was wrong. And then they switch it back. And then there'd be another one 5 minutes later. And I was like, I don't know if it's right. There's some stuff there that was frustrating. One of the games I don't think included like fouls. Like, so you had no idea if they were close to getting to the bonus, just like really basic stuff.
There was one game where the fouls were 4 for each team the whole game.
Right. Right. It's like, maybe we could figure that out just one time.
And like, I understand, like normally you have like a software that plugs into the overall like scoring system, like the scoreboard at the stadium. If that's not working, let's call an audible and just do it manually.
There's got to be a way to do a little bit of something. Yeah, it was tough scene for the Sun Belt. So hopefully they bounce back from that next year. Because I agree. Yeah, they are talking a big game. They're having some good results. They have a basketball team now that has a chance to maybe win a game or two or more in the NCAA tournament. Gotta up some of that production.
This is a mid to low major conference who is a legitimate was in the conversation for being a 2-bid league for the last like 3 months of the season. And that was your broadcast.
Got to get better.
I also thought when the Arkansas State player hit that buzzer beater against App State, the clock was wrong. And I was like, here we go again.
So did I. Was that the one? I can't remember. I think it was that one too, where they started showing replays and none of the replays showed the clock or the buzzer.
They didn't even. So that was the one. It may have been, we might be thinking the same thing because they finished it and they're like talking about it. And it took 30 seconds to get a replay. And then the replay was just a highlight package of the player of the game who hit the buzzer beater and like the highlight package to see the buzzer beater. Just like,
and then depending on where the camera is, at least was sort of my understanding, is that I don't know if the people in the studio knew that then it was officially deemed good until there was like another reaction. So you would usually see the ref and you'd be like, and it's good. And then it would go to the reaction. And it's like how we've been trained to watch sports. Instead, it was like they're celebrating and it's like, and we think it's good. This is to go to the championship game.
It was something.
It was. We got anything else on the men, or do we want to drive by the Jamie Marshall game?
Let's do a quick. Mark Siciliano totally drove me crazy. Yeah, that was it. It was that may have been the creme de la creme, the Arkansas State buzzer beater. That is acted like it's a questionable. And then they were gun shy too because they had called the game early. They're like, oh no.
Which was still the funny. That's like one of the college basketball moments of the season to be like, what's he shooting it for? It's not good. It was late. What? That's why he shot it.
And it was so bad that then Texas State went on to win and then make it all the way to the semis.
Oh my God.
All right. Women's time.
Okay. So they lose to Marshall 95-92 in overtime. I thought they put up a heck of a fight in what I'll only describe as the weirdest basketball game I've watched in a long time.
I texted you this, and I don't know if you understood my thinking. It was such a fast-paced, fast-moving game that the time felt like it took forever.
I feel like I watched 14 quarters.
Like that fourth quarter, like from when Marshall got to like a 9-10 point lead in the fourth quarter, and then JMU stormed back to then take the lead. I think 3 minutes had elapsed. It felt like 25.
it was an insane game. The stats are mind-boggling. So,
The stats aren't real. The stats, there had to be a clerical error. I've never seen a team not take 99 shots.
Marshall goes 30 of 99 from the field.
That is so many shots.
They had 33 offensive rebounds. They shot 38 free throws. They were 8 of 46 from 3. JMU had 59 rebounds, and Coach O was disappointed in the rebounding performance. JMU shot 50% from the floor, but they also gave up the offensive rebounds, and they turned the ball over 39 times.
You know what's magnificent about this game? JMU wasn't run back to Harrisonburg.
I don't understand.
JMU should have been run back to Harrisonburg. Like, there's no reason that JMU should have been able to force overtime.
And it was a tough one. And Coach O was talking about this in the post game, that they poured so much into it. You could tell that they did. Like, their energy level in the conference tournament was just better than it was during the season. It sort of looked like it did at the end of the year. We always talk about teams like, can you turn it on in March? They kind of did. And they blow out Southern Miss in that first game. They beat Louisiana by 10 in the second game with great energy, great rebounding. And they had great energy again. And they just couldn't break the press. And it wasn't like, oh man, they had a few tough possessions against the press. They had 45 tough minutes against the press.
But that's how their season. My voice just went into, I don't know.
They should make you lose your voice, and then you should call the Sun Belt tournament games.
I do have to call a game tomorrow and Wednesday.
Good luck.
So I'm going to be cracking my voice all over the place. But where was I going with that?
45 minutes against the press, but they're bad.
Your season ended last year because Ohio State just destroyed you on the press. So, like, I'm not saying you had to spend all offseason working on how to break a press, but, like, figuring out a little bit, especially when you know that you're going to be facing off against another team who runs a full court press. Maybe we can work on it this offseason.
Yeah, I think
honestly, the best defense for that full court press, though, might just be having the Marshall head coach get hired away.
Yeah, I think the way to break the press is, if you're Coach O'Regan, you got to, like, do as much media as you can and be like, Kim Caldwell is changing women's college basketball. You got to get her out of there as quickly as possible. She needs to be coaching a Power 5 team immediately.
But there were some timely buckets in that fourth quarter from Peyton McDaniel. Heaven Bristow had like a 4-minute just dominating stretch. I think she scored 5 or 6 points, had 2 or 3 rebounds, and just like put up her hand, said, everyone, this is my game real quick. And then gave JMU the lead. And then a couple key turnovers kind of late after the Dukes took the lead in overtime. That was their undoing.
Yeah, it was like a gritty performance, even though it was so frustrating, right? Because some of the execution was so bad with the turnovers.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, it wasn't that frustrating because they'd turn it over and then Marshall would go and just brick it.
And then get the rebound. To me, that was the most infuriating sequence. It was like, how are they not down 30? It was like the way, like, my eyes were like, oh, they should be down 30. And then McDaniel would hit a 3 and they're like up 2. And I was like, it's not processing how this is happening. But it was like, if you watch the game and you told somebody who had never watched either team before, you're like, hey, one of these players played at Ohio State last year. Can you pick out who it was? Heaven Bristow was going up and snagging like one-handed rebounds, bringing them down, and then going on the other side, like crossing people up after post-ups. Pretty clearly, she was like a power conference player. She was a stud. McDaniel was clutch. Anna Goodman, who was like a 60% free throw shooter, ice in her veins at the end of regulation to hit 2 and send it to OT. Like, just so tough. Kozlova was in foul trouble, but battled all game. They really fought. I thought Carol Miller, Virginia transfer, did some nice stuff too. Hazel, Chloe Sterling. They were so close. They were so close to getting back-to-back appearances in the NCAA tournament. And I don't know, 39 turnovers you just can't win a game with 39.
You can't win a game when the other team shoots 99 times.
Which is insane. Insane.
Goodman, her growth, especially over the last month of the season, was fantastic. And that is going to be huge for the Dukes going into next season. They return a lot of talent. Peyton McDaniel back, the redshirt sophomore, is somehow still a redshirt sophomore. Goodman is a redshirt junior. Ashanti Barnes is a junior. You have Jamia Hazel, a redshirt junior. Kozlova, a redshirt junior. The only people leaving, Heaven Bristow, along with Carol Miller. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Bristow's a tough loss. Miller did some nice stuff, but you return based on this, right? The people that still have eligibility, that's a ton of talent. So you got a chance to be, I think, elite again next season. Players are developing nicely. They should be in contention for the league championship. This year, a little weird because they women's basketball added the WBIT, which is basically what the WNIT was, but I think it was tweaked to help power conference teams more. And then there's also the WNIT, which has 48 teams, but I guess the JMU administration has decided they will only play in the WBIT. So if they get an invitation to that, they'll take it, they'll play in it. They will not play in the WNIT, which is not sponsored by the NCAA. I think the reasoning there, my guess, would be cost related, where it's not even NCAA sponsored. Sort of similarly to the reason some teams will deny CBI or CIT or whatever, right? You don't need to burn all the travel costs to play in games that probably aren't moving the needle that much for your program.
Well said.
It's a battle. It was a battle. Fun day of basketball.
Fun day. That last game, that was a dominating win.
And shout out again to Kim Caldwell, who the job she has done, I don't think we can say it enough, is unbelievable.
Are you going to bat for her? Are you helping Coach O with his offense defensive
power conference team that gets her? Congratulations. She actually, though, in all seriousness, is going to be coaching a power team very soon. She's a stud coach.
I do enjoy that little coaching rivalry, though. If she stays for another year or two with Coach O, that's going to be a really good rivalry because they went 1-1 in the regular season. They won at each other's houses, and then it was just a knock you out, drag you out fight in the tournament final. So whatever they go and do going into next year is going to be electric because these two teams, they play kind of different styles of basketball, and it makes for some good games.
And the zone works. JMU put the zone on them, and it was great in both the final two games of the year. 8 of 46 from three, as we mentioned. It's so easy, and I think some fans got caught up in this, where it's what are they doing with the turnovers? It's fair, but also JMU played maybe its best defensive game of the year. It's also hard to go from the zone they were in to then rebounding because you're sort of spaced out weirdly and crashing into certain people and contesting, and it draws you into weird pockets where then it's hard when you have the shooters come in and rebound. So tough to box out in that situation. Didn't do it maybe quite as much as they needed to, but gosh, they were close, and that was a fun game.
It was a great game, and now we'll wait to see if they get an invitation to WBIT. We know the men, they have their ticket punched. We'll know who they play next Sunday. Selection show is on Sunday on CBS. Maybe another emergency pod coming after that selection Sunday to break down the Dukes draw, and we can fill out our bracket on air. Spoiler alert, JMU's winning the whole thing.
I think, there aren't many teams out there that have a Jalen Carey here's what I'll say. If Brown doesn't miss any threes and he's making them from the logo, maybe.
If Xavier Brown just goes off for the remainder of the season,
what an unbelievable showing from him.
If they somehow are able to keep this core of Xavier Brown and Jalen Carey
and Horton maybe
and Raekwon Horton, oh Nelly,
they've got some potential next year. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but gosh, this is going to be a fun finish to the year. I mean, it's not even close to how much better this team is than any other team during our 10-ish years following the team.
I said it at the top of the pod, but I truly mean it. I never thought I would see this. And not and when I say that, I mean a dominant team that has a chance to win an NCAA tournament game. Of course, I thought okay, in the next 20 years, maybe they'll be able to pull out a Sun Belt tournament every 5 years, every 6 years as a 3 seed, but it doesn't really have an Arkansas State doesn't have a real shot to win an NCAA tournament game. I never thought I'd see a 31-3 team with a legitimate chance to be a Cinderella.
They're going to get like an 11 or 12, and we're going to be like, wrong. Like, should be a single digit. Like, they're that good. It's
By we, you mean you. You're going to be tweeting at Seth Davis. Wrong. Sharpie. Screw you.
And everyone's going to pick them to advance. I don't know. Just unbelievable. Yeah, because we went from a few years ago to being like, please, just baseline level of competence to like, Mark, we love you. Thank you for what you've done. Please return them to relevance. The fans care again. It's cool to see a lot of people live tweeting and reacting during a men's basketball game. In the last few years, it feels like that's largely been reserved for
women's basketball and football.
Women's basketball, football, and like if lacrosse is playing in like a Final Four.
What a time.
What a time.
Anything else you got to add?
They did it. And we're still monitoring the Eikenberry apology, folks.
You had to throw that in at the end. Yeah, the apology's not coming, but I will say JMU baseball is very good. So for Bennett Conlon, I'm Jack Fitzpatrick. We'll be back next Sunday after the selection show. The Dukes are dancing for the first time since 2013. This has been the JMU Sports News Podcast presented by BetOnline. Check out everything over on our home on the web, jmusportsnews.com.